Welcome back to On Point with Ben and Am. Hello, Amardeep. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Ben. How are you?
Yeah, very well, very well. Fresh from the weekend, ready for another exciting week and an exciting couple of guests that we have with us today. It's guests that we know quite well. Actually, introduced to me by yourself, Em. Say.
That's right. Yeah, I met Svet in a very strange, convoluted way, but it's turned into something excellent. We're part of a group of female leaders in the data space. We've got like a little kind of group, and some big things are coming. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I'll pass it back to you, Ben.
Yeah, no, it's very exciting to bring Svet on. And Svet, I'll let Svet do her own introduction for two main reasons. The first is because I couldn't give her her background justice enough, but the second is I can't pronounce her surname, and I don't want to embarrass myself. Svet's joined today by Tom Dibble-Burge, who's a business partner. Svet and Tom are from a business called the Dot Collective, which is a really exciting new business, which we see a lot of synergy with our own company, AMS. So yeah, Svet, over to you. Thank you for coming on the show.
Nice to be here. Thank you so much for inviting us. What would you like me to do? Introduce myself. I'm Svetlana Tarnagurskaja is a full name, but all my career I was known as Svetlana T. So it's
Svetlana T. That's easy for me.
Yeah.
And Svet, so your background, how did the Dot Collective come around, and what were you up to before that? And
so before starting Dot Collective, I had the privilege to look after 350 phenomenal technologists. I was working for another engineering consultancy business. I was running London division.
Wow.
So the company is called BGSS. I was kind of delivering for London. It was an incredible opportunity to be part of the growth. The business grew quite significantly throughout my 10 years there. And I learned a lot. It was massive responsibility, like 50 projects, lots of clients, 17 and Milan. Very exciting. But then I decided that my life is not fun enough. So we decided to start a consultancy from scratch.
Exciting. And so Tom, did you know Svet from before, or?
Yes, we started working together in about 2018 when I joined BGSS as part of the sales team there. And I guess my remit, I was a little bit fortunate in a sense, which was just come in and sell some new stuff. And part of that was going out and identifying where there was opportunities and kind of landed in the data space at that point. And that's really when I got to know Svetlana well, given her background, and between the two of us managed to build out a data capability there from sort of zero technical people, if you like, or engineers, up to 100 plus by the time that I moved on. And we both spoken about kind of our desires, and we're both quite kind of entrepreneurial in a sense anyway. So for us, the natural step was to go away and do something ourselves, and it was just about identifying the right opportunity to do that. And when that opportunity came along, I think we both made the right decision, I hope, to do that. Not without its kind of trials and tribulations, which we can go through in a little bit more detail. But yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to be here, and we're delighted to be kind of living this opportunity day by day at the moment.
Yeah, Ams and I are super excited to have you guys on, because there's so much synergy. It's untrue. Like, we've all been working for big companies and all kind of seen the opportunity to want to do something yourself. And that's what this whole podcast is about. It's about an entrepreneur in the technology market today. And in these crazy times that we're living, there'll be so many people that listen to this right now that have been planning to make a business. Maybe they're deciding to wait a little bit longer. Maybe they're waiting to move a bit faster. There's so many different reasons why people would do it. And Amardeep and I have got our own story. But yeah, I think that where I could like to start this conversation is around that kind of stability against the kind of leap of faith. I don't want to say leap of faith, because I think people have always got to have the confidence when they start the business, but so many people I speak to are comfortable in their role, and they have families and different personal situations, but they would want to work in a startup environment for many different reasons. And I think that's probably like the first question I'll put over to you guys. I'm sure Amardeep would have some thoughts on as well. You know, when is the right time? Kind of faith against stability, and why be an entrepreneur?
Right time and right indeed. Okay, that's two really awesome questions. I think. I think the right time is when deep in your heart you just have this gut feel that you should just go for it, and although you don't have all the answers, you just know that it's going to be the most incredible adventure in your life. And if you don't do it, you're going to regret. So for me, it was just that moment when, if not now, then when, like, what are we waiting for? It's like the market is good, we know what we're doing, we have expertise, we have trust of people. It just felt like the perfect moment, and I think we both were ready for that.
And I think we were, you know, every kind of partnership is unique, and you know, we were kind of the Svet was very much of the, well, here's all the reasons why we should be doing it now. I was perhaps a little bit more, well, here's all the reasons we shouldn't be doing it now. And kind of slowly over a period of time, they kind of leveled each other out to a point where it's like, well, this is the right time to do it. And I think the other thing is, yeah, of course, you know, there's a level of risk and in kind of making that decision. But also I think we both got to a point where almost moving from a role in a consultancy into a role in another consultancy was as much a risk as it was us kind of going off and doing our own thing. Now, that's not entirely true, right? There's obviously more risk with this, but it got to a level of parity where it's like, well, I've kind of run out of reasons why I could say we shouldn't do it. Svet's got lots of good reasons as to why we should do it. You know, the market in general is a little bit crazy, and, you know, by kind of going into a more traditional consultancy, it's not necessarily more stable than doing your own thing, and kind of, you know, the upsides, you know, become such a convincing story for us that it became a kind of very easy decision to make, if you like. So yeah, I think, you know, we kind of worked through that a little bit, and eventually got to the point, as I said, where it just seemed to make sense for all the right reasons.
And I like that because you mentioned a couple of things there that I just want to pick up on. I think calculated risk is definitely something I hear entrepreneurs saying. I don't ever really hear anyone saying just go into it blind faith, go for it. I think it's actually a little bit dangerous to say that to people, because they have to also look at their situation. And I like the fact that you have Tom, who's bringing all the reasons as to not do it right now, and then Svet saying all the reasons why, because you're getting that really good balance. And I think it kind of draws a little bit on me and Ben and James, our other business partner, where, you know, these guys were ready to, I really wanted to do it, and there was something inside me that has always wanted to do it. And I think it was Ben that probably, I would say, pushed me over the edge in terms of saying, if not now. Yeah, he really did. If not now, when? And I think there's also this this thing inside people. You've got the entrepreneurial spirit, they call it, but also you've got this fear. You don't have fear of failure, which is really, really important. And I've always said to myself in everything that I've done, if it doesn't work, we'll pivot. And if it doesn't work, I'll do this. And if it doesn't work, and I think that almost reassures you in your mind. So for me, definitely, Ben, I don't know about you, but mine wasn't so much faith, but more like calculated risk.
Yeah, I mean, ours is an interesting one. We started just before COVID, and we didn't know that COVID was around the corner. We talk about this a lot, so I kind of won't bore all the listeners with that. But I think with our situation, it was, you know, Amardeep gate crashed a holiday that I went on to Thailand, like true story. And as you do, like when you gate crash holidays, you talk about your personal situation and what you're doing. And Amardeep's just somebody, I'd always wanted, I'd recruited for consultancies for 17 years. You know, BJSS used to be my biggest customer back in the day, and Infinity Works where Amardeep was working at. And for me, it was like I knew this consultancy and the talent for consultancy so well. And I'd always wanted to start my own consultancy or be involved in it, but never really had too much thoughts about it until, the trigger was Amardeep talking about her career. And it was just like, it was very clear that Amardeep is somebody who's better at owning something and, being a part of something from the start. And I think that's where kind of leading me into my next questions, I guess. It's about who you go into business with. And I think that Amardeep and I'll be very honest that if Amardeep and I started business today, like it wouldn't work out. Like we need James. Like James is like, he would not want to come on a podcast, which is fair enough, but we need James to basically run as a business. And I think it's very important before you kind of pull the trigger and, with all your personal circumstances to work out, who you go into business with and have you got the right I guess traits between you to start up. So was it always you guys? Did you have people that you were working with immediately? Do you have people in mind, or do you have other skills that maybe you thought we need to bring into the team from the start? Or
I think we were quite lucky because I think we have very complementary skill set, and this worked really, really well. And I think this is super important when you decide whom you go into business with. And I think we also have lots of respect for each other, and we've seen each other in business. We worked together for a few years before, so it was a nice way to test if you kind of can sustain that. But yeah, I think we're just quite lucky because it was very easy to split what are the areas of responsibility for each other, and it's actually unbelievably cool knowing that you don't have to worry about everything. That kind of, okay, there is this person, he's looking after that, it's going to be all right, like, cool, happy days, keep me posted. So for me it would be that.
And I think there's multiple layers to that question, isn't there? I think in terms of how do you work together. One is, are you happy to disagree about stuff? And we do, and we figure it out. We've got an understanding of each other's personal situations, which is important, given that quite often when you're talking about startups or starting a business, we all know that it's not 9 till 5. So a recognition of that, a level of respect and trust, as Svetlana said, which is that person is going to make the right decision. And certainly I'm happy to stand by any decision that Svetlana makes, whether I agree that it's the right one or not, but also knowing that, she will, 99% of the time come to me if we feel it's a decision that, needs someone else's opinion. And I think that's the other thing, just having, having the trust and relationship to someone where you can truly use them as a sounding board, makes life so much more easier in terms of, not just in terms of responsibility, right? Knowing that you've made that decision with someone, I think that adds great value to a business. And back to your point around kind of calculated risk, I think a mechanism of de-risking a situation, right, is by having someone that you can have that candid conversation with and saying, right, do we think this is the right or wrong thing to do? So I think bringing all of that together, and the fact that we've got a friendship and we get along as well, kind of just sort of creates a nice little wrapper around all of that.
Yeah, but has Svetlana ever gate crashed a holiday of yours?
Yet to come.
Yeah, this is it. Like Amardeep gate crashes my holiday, so like that's when you have your friendship level kind of like. Okay,
just to be really clear, right? First of all, me and Ben.
Clear about it. You gate crashed the
holiday. I'm going
to
be clear now. I'm going to clarify. So me and Ben, I would definitely say have a very brother-sister relationship. In that, like, we're super, super close, but we're very similar and very different, like stark differences, which is why we need James so badly. And James is quite different to me and Ben, but this all started because, first of all, Ben was plowing me with alcohol in a pub. With alcohol in a pub. So we sat in a pub. I don't know what to do about my career. I've had some chats with, I actually reached out to Ben when I started considering what I want to do with my career, because he's a very experienced recruiter and I respect his opinion. So now he's bought me a few brandies. Now I'm a little bit drunk. And then he tells me, oh, by the way, in 2 weeks, I'm going to Thailand. in true Am fashion, I was like, can I come? English politeness, he said yes. I booked a ticket. It's not my fault. Ultimately he invited me.
I wish I never went in that pub.
So
all jokes aside, that's a complete, listen, we wouldn't be where we are today. And I think just picking up from some of Tom's points there personally, that's a really good bit of advice to understand people's personal situations when you go into business with them. COVID was, it was the hardest thing for us, but it made us so strong because, and Am won't mind me saying, Amardeep was living in a flat in London. Again, we talk about it quite a lot. She was by herself in a flat in Camden, and James and I were starting business, had our other business, and all we were worried about was making sure that Amardeep was okay, because she'd gone from a role where she was really busy to suddenly we were very we thought we'd pick up work relatively easily, but it took a bit of time. And I think there's a lot to be said about having empathy and understanding people's different situations, because then over time, I've had to care for my mother, James has had different situations with children, and it's understanding where everybody is. And I think that's something that maybe gets overlooked when you're talking about starting a business, to be honest with you. But I guess this is exciting because we're on the same kind of journey, the same kind of path in many respects. Once you land that first client, there's nothing more exciting in my experience as an entrepreneur. Yeah. Funny calling myself an entrepreneur, but when you first have your first client, when you win your first contract, when you have your first couple of boots on the ground, it's an incredibly exciting feeling. But then you soon realise that you're trying to make a mark, and you're up against some of these big players that probably we've talked about in the past. And I guess that's a really good next question to lead on to, really. How do you go about building your reputation? What advice would you have if somebody's looking to start a new business? How do you start and build a reputation for yourself?
Okay, shall I go? I would say you have to understand what you stand for, and you really have to be true to your values. Like, don't try to replicate what someone else is doing. And I think it worked really well for us, because when we started Dot Collective, there was lots of passion for what we're doing, and I really wanted to do something different. And I always knew that if I were to run a business myself, there was so much more I could do. So for us, it's very much about being really good at what we do. Like, our team is phenomenal. They are the best engineers I've ever worked with. It's just true privilege to have such caliber of people. And also us being us, right? We are humble, we're easy to do business with, we're willing always do kind of the right thing for the client. We are, it's interesting, we have this conversation about values today, we're updating our website, so there is lots of soul searching going on. And I would say, well, we are as far from your classy management consultancy as one can be, right? And I think there is nothing wrong with defining yourself as, well, we are not that. We are something very different. We're a group of functional engineers who are just really good at what they do.
And I think, so I was thinking about this question this morning, actually. One of the reasons that myself and Svetlana wanted to do our own thing is because I think we both felt that we never quite fitted in somewhere else. And, that's spanning across 15, 20 years worth of, corporate experience, if you like, which is, wherever we've been, we've always been successful. We've always done a good job. We've never quite felt like, it's always been someone else making that final decision, or it's always been someone listening to you, but not, fully supporting what you're doing, or, it's always been someone else reaping the rewards of what it is that you do. And again, I don't want to talk on Svet's behalf, but, we're both individuals that as I said, didn't quite fit in 100% to that. So it just felt like natural to do our own thing. And then by doing that, we also found that, you know, there's lots of other people that kind of felt the same way and are now kind of finding their feet and finding their ground within our organization. And that, you know, in the short period of time that we've been going, one of the nicest things has been is kind of seeing those people really flourish and come into their own and kind of, you know, start to reach, if you like, the potential, and not just from a skills perspective, but from a kind of emotional, personable, you know, all of those things, and really see some of these people's personalities come out and kind of flourish has been really like rewarding, I think. So that's one thing. I think the other thing, and Svet touched on this a little bit, is around reputation and kind of how do you go up against some of those other competitors. You know, our business is our people, you know, much like yourselves. We don't have a product, we don't have something that's there that we can go and sell. So, you know, for me, the only way that we can build a reputation is by doing good stuff. And it sounds incredibly basic, right? And it's incredibly like, well, that's obvious, but it's kind of the way it is. And, you know, if we do a good job, then people see that, they like that, and they want more of it. Certainly for coming out from a kind of sales and sort of marketing perspective, you know, it's if we've got a good story to tell because we've got a good reputation and we've done good stuff, that, you know, speaks a million words.
That's really good. Sorry, Ben.
No, you go for it. Go for it.
No, that's really good. I like that, because you're right. We are very similar. We don't have a product that we can sell and rely on. You know, it's our people and the caliber of people we put in. And also, we always say something, which is the proof's in the pudding. So the last thing, you know, we really strive to make a partnership with organisations rather than put bums on seats or just quickly fulfil a statement of work or anything like that. And it really is what we say. Like me, obviously, Svet, you know me, and Ben and Tommy, obviously you've just met us, but if you'd met James, who never comes on, he's very, very different. And what we found as well is we're three different people with three different personalities, down to even how we live our personal lives. So if we can bring that all into one and show people that you can just be whoever you want to be at our company, just be passionate about what you want to do and be really honest in the way that you live your professional life with us, you attract such a great amount of people. Because I do believe that lots of people are straying away from the kind of, let's call it, corporate life. I think it's a little bit outdated. I think it suits some people perfectly, but if I talk about my personal experience, corporate life for me was just not for me. And it's strange, because some people might say, but you're still doing that, and it's like, yeah, but it's very different terms now. My terms and conditions are very different, and I think that's how people need to look at it. You can go work for a big massive conglomerate even, but it's kind of like, what culture are they fostering, are they manifesting, and how are you adding to it? So it's really
well, yeah. And I'm going to maybe embarrass Sam a little bit. It's hard to embarrass, but like, we were at the Women in Tech event last week. The Karen Brady one at the Excel, and Ams did a talk, and it was a great talk, because I didn't know what she was going to say when she went up there. But you know, you spoke a lot about. The subject was about why would women in technology work? Why would you work in technology apart from the money, right?
Yeah, so it was women in business. It was the women in business event, but I was from a technical point of view. But yeah, it was what are you motivate? What should women look for in a company other than money?
And what I like what you said, Ams, was you spoke a lot about like company policies, and you spoke a lot about corporate social responsibility, and and it was like, yeah, you absolutely was so true. Because again, you hadn't spoken to us that you were going to say this, but you have corporate companies who, in my opinion, or our opinion, because you said it and I agreed with you, will do something for the sake of it. You know, they'll have a charity for the sake of it. You know, where will align with a given cause for our own personal reasons, and we can bleed that into it. And policies aren't stringent, and this is how it is, because you know, it's written in stone, and that's the end of the, you know, we're a business that will, you know, want our staff to be able to be happy, and we can change and do our policies actually mean something. And that's something that you picked up, that you said, Tom, that I think is really important, again, for other people to be their authentic selves when they start their own company. You know, don't bring the rest of it. And that's, I think, what you brought really well, Amardeep, with that talk, to be fair.
Thank you. Yeah, I talked a little bit about, and the other thing is as well, I talked about policies, but the other thing is as well that policies can change, and as we're two startups, let's call us, we can change those policies as much as we want. You know, what's relevant today might not be relevant in a year's time, or something new will have come, or our interests or the economy or whatever might have changed. And I think people forget that. And when you get sucked into that, when you get sucked into any business, be it your own, you can very much go into a black hole and you can't get out of it. And I think the point of retaining, getting great employees and clients is staying true to your own values, letting other people stay true to theirs, and finding a nice way of aligning them through some sort of social or some sort of charitable organization, or just giving back. And I think that's quite crucial what you guys have said as well.
Yeah, I think the other thing that you said, Tom, then that was good, and again, coming it from maybe me from a sales perspective, is that, you know, how excited I was when we got our first customer and we got our first people in the ground. You know, it was the first time we delivered and the first time we got a case study. That was really exciting for me as well. You know, and I think that that's when you know that you can start using this to start showing and showcasing what you've done to other customers, right? And that's how you start to grow the business. But I guess that, like, how old are you guys now? So how long have you actually been trading for?
So we've been trading for over a year, but in terms of kind of being a going entity, if you like, I think we sent our first invoice in March. Is that about right?
Well done.
Yeah.
December last year.
So
December. There you go.
There you go. Remember.
Yeah.
with I guess what I was saying is, like, you know,
but it was kind of more like just testing the market mode, to be honest. But yeah, I got into business full time in December, so Tom is right. We really started, like, our first employee joined in March, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's in terms of going kind of fully, it's less than a year. We're doing quite well, actually.
Yeah, right. And what in terms of, and you started to have the growing pains yet? So, you know, Ams and I could probably discuss a few of the things that we've come up against and are still going through. But if you had, you know, like I said, we talk about starting up and taking that leap of faith. We talk about who we're going to business with. We talk about how we're going to, you know, be authentic and how we're going to compete. Then it comes that kind of next stage, like, I'm sure you'll probably say talent. I know, I guess, but like, what kind of growing pains have you come up against yet?
So I'll let Svet take the kind of talent. Well, I haven't got a desk. If that's we've run out of desks already. Yeah, I'm doing it. I think, you know, for us, you know, it's about sustainable growth, and I know that's like an in word at the moment, but what does that really mean? You know, it's about us growing within our means, whilst trying to make sure that we don't lose out on opportunities that are in front of us. So, you know, like any startup, I'm sure, you know, daily we're looking at, you know, what's our cost going out, what's our revenues coming in, how can we balance that? Well, you know, if we win this contract, does that mean we can go out and hire someone else? And kind of, you know, so you know, you have to have, I think you have to have an awareness to that. And again, back to the phrase around kind of calculated risk, you know, whether we all have to make decisions, and, you know, we'll make right decisions and we'll make wrong decisions. But it's like, for me, as long as we're making informed decisions, we're kind of setting ourselves up in the best way. You know, we won't get all the decisions always right, but as long as we feel at that time that with the information that we were presented, it's the right decision, that's kind of where I see it. In terms of growing pains, yeah, I think, yeah, people is, well, not people, but finding talent is, you know, inevitably always going to be a problem. And, you know, and I think it's interesting, actually, so we're talking to a few, you know, potential partners earlier. And for me, you know, for a long while, the business is going to continue to be, you know, massively dependent on people as individuals. You know, for as far as I can see, you know, each individual person's going to have, you know, a kind of genuine impact on the success of the business. So for, you know, managing that and maintaining that and keeping all the values and everything else that we have, I think is certainly a challenge that I see. Svet, I don't know if you've got any more.
For me, I think the challenge is about how to scale without killing the culture. And I think this is one, I see it as one of the kind of main areas of responsibility, if you want, for us kind of as a leadership team, are to treat the culture with the respect it deserves. Because I think we created something super amazing. And as Tom was saying, it's just, we just have this awesome vibe, which I will kind of see business priority number one is to protect that and to make sure it continues to be this great environment where people can just relax and be who they are. And it's amazing how much energy is released when you don't have to worry about the fact that, I don't know, you can't make it to the board because you're not a male Burman in North Yorkshire, right? It just changes the game. So for me, it is about, very much how do you scale it without killing the vibe. And of course, as you grow, you have to introduce some processes, you have to introduce kind of some communities of interest, you have to introduce some ways to manage this complexity, right? Because we know with extra person added, your complexity grows kind of by multiplier, unfortunately. So it's finding the right balance. And I think, so far so good, but we're about 20 people in headcount now. So I think, we will have to change a few things when we reach 50. We will have to change again when we reach 100. But I think as long as we stay true to our values and people feel like they can talk to anyone about anything, I think we're fine.
Yeah, I think it always comes down to people, doesn't it? I think I actually meant to ask you that question earlier on, Svet, because when you spoke about starting up and how passionate, you're very similar to Amardeep in terms of like creating a company culture and the values. I guess I'm sure Tom and I are the same, but I think it's really obvious in you guys, given the background and companies that you've been working at and the jobs that you've been doing. And I have sat in my seat and I have seen these companies who always say that it's like that is going to be the hard challenge that's going to come for any small technology business, and it's all about the people that you bring on board, and it's all about making sure that you're aligned. And I think that's something that's a big shift. I think that of course with technology businesses and having good technologists is key, but attitude and ethos and I can't speak highly about it enough. I think skills can be taught for the right kind of people as businesses grow, and I think that I think that's what we're pretty passionate about, Ams, isn't it? I think in terms of moving forward, then you guys you've got some. I know that you've got some great customers, and you're making some big strides in the market now. It's a very exciting time to be working in the data sector. What's next for the business? Where do you see yourselves kind of growing over in 2023?
So I think we've got some pretty big growth ambitions, I think. But then, having said that, we're on track for the first 12 months, or the first significant 12 months since we had our first full-time employee, kind of deliver, if not exceed, those initial expectations, which is great. All with the caveat that we can't control economic factors and what Liz is going to say next, or what Jeremy's going to say next, or the next COVID. So I think I think to some extent, events of the last sort of 3 to 4 years have really brought that into focus. And as you guys will experience this, and I think we've witnessed it, that for a while there was a bit of a view that everything's green and nothing's ever going to go wrong. So I think having had a couple of years before doing this where perhaps that wasn't the case, I think has put us in good stead. So, but no, look, we've got good pretty clear plans for the next sort of 2 to 3 years on where we want to get to. Got a pretty good view of how we're going to get there. We've got, you know, and let Svet talk about this a bit more, but a great team, initial team, sort of founding team behind that are on board with those, and, you know, sort of authentically on board with that as well. You know, it's not yeah, we're saying this because you're our boss and, you know, we want to, it's a genuine, like, they're part of it and want to be part of it. And back to your point, Ben, I think a lot of, you know, businesses say the right things but don't actually stand for it. And, you know, I think, you know, I truly believe that what, you know, we've got here is a bunch of people that believe in that kind of vision, and when it's authentic, it's kind of very easy to keep it and kind of not lose sight of it. So yeah, that's from me, from you, Svet.
Yeah, I think as Tom said, I think we have great foundations in place. We can keep growing comfortably by doing the same, just at bigger scale. Our data is an amazing space. It's a great part of the market to be in, and what was very refreshing to see, because when we were starting, I was a bit worried. Okay, we're like completely new guys around the globe, right? No, like, it's a new brand. Okay, some people knew me and Tom, like, we have reputation, but, you know, still. But what was super refreshing to see is that everyone been happy to talk to us. Everyone is in dire need of strong engineering talent. Everyone needs that expertise in building data platforms well. There is this shared agreement within the markets that your ability to harness value from data is your biggest competitive advantage. You don't have to spend time convincing people of this fact. Everyone is already convinced. It is just about helping people to get there and being a good partner. Exactly as Amardeep is saying, I think what everyone really appreciates is when you come from maybe more humble kind of state of mind, and when you say, okay, fine, I mean, this is based on all my experience, this is how I think, like, this problem can be solved, and we can help you, and we will work together, and we will get there. And it's very much not about, there is never cookie cutter solution, there is never like standard DAC or like same recipe you try to apply. I think those days are gone. Yeah. And in many ways, I think it's great news for small and niche consultancies like ours, because you bring expertise, you bring attitude, you deliver, you stay true to your word, and this is a great foundation to building your reputation.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, isn't it? Like, for my, again, I'm talking a little bit with my recruiter hat on, but, you know, the surge for, it's well known that there's more, you know, roles within data now that, you know, than there are candidates. It's incredibly competitive, but, you know, there's a time when, well, again, maybe you guys might shoot me down here, but maybe data is not frowned upon, but it wasn't seen as the most exciting thing to do. And I see over the last couple of years, it's genuinely so exciting. And I think that, you know, a lot of businesses obviously invest in and embracing data, but I think there's a lot of that they do need guidance. I think there's a lot of companies out there who really need, you know, people to give demonstrable experiences of projects and how they've been delivered and the best way to kind of use their data. I'd say it's a really exciting sector. Listen, guys, thank you so much for coming on. I think it's, you know, it's a fantastic success story in such a short period of time. I've been down to your offices. You've got some really cool, quirky offices. I'm enjoying, you know, we might, Ams and I might even look at moving in there ourselves. But you're down at where you don't like one of the Hoxton hotels, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Is there
wherever it works, there must be terrace, everyone.
Yeah.
There's a few different bars in there, Svet, isn't there? Obviously, like, you know,
there's campaign bars.
Yes.
Ground floor, mid floor, top floor. It seems like it's a really cool place to work. But yeah, listen, we'll we'll be watching very closely and obviously working in partnership as well. So it's and I hope that there's been a few good takeaways for this. From it's good for a little bit of reminiscing with Em and I actually, because how we started, why we started. And it's interesting, like I say, when we spoke, all the different dynamics. And when Em spoke at the Women in Tech event last week, I'm kind of really bigging Em's up here, but I was sitting there thinking, yeah, this is exactly why we did it. And I kind of come away and we're like, really pumped to kind of push that message again. I think that there's a lot of other people in the market now who will be thinking again, when this happened in COVID, people just kind of stop and reflect and say, would I like to be an entrepreneur? Would I like to start my own business? And, if the stars align, they do. But I think now I think people will be doing it again with how the economic climate is and working out what they want to do. So hopefully this is a good pod for some people to take some takeaways from. I always say, at the end, if anybody would like to reach out to you, are you both open to people connecting to you on LinkedIn and asking you questions if maybe they're thinking about starting up?
Of course.
Absolutely, yeah.
Awesome, perfect. Well, listen, thank you very much for coming on. Really appreciate your time, and we look forward to popping along to the office and seeing you guys soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.